In Russia, local authorities are beginning to cancel May 9th parades due to fears of strikes by the armed forces of Ukraine, reports the Moscow Times. According to the governor of Krasnodar Krai, Veniamin Kondratyev, this year's parade will not be held in Krasnodar for security reasons. According to him, the decision is related to the high risk of air attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces. There will be no parade in Krasnodar because the parade will take place in Novorossiysk. It's simply too risky. Air raid alerts are issued almost every night, Kondratyev said. He added that the decision was made jointly with law enforcement agencies and the representatives of the army of the aggressor state. It's worth noting that military and industrial facilities in Novorossiysk itself, a city located on the Black Sea coast, have been repeatedly targeted by Ukrainian aerial and naval drones. The publication notes that the cancellation of May 9th celebrations in Russia this year is not unique. In 2024, parades were canceled in 1 out of every 4 regions of the aggressor country. Such decisions have primarily been made in regions that have been regularly attacked by Ukrainian drones. Among these regions are the Lipetsk, Belgorod, Kursk, and Bryansk regions. In Moscow itself, the parade took place last year, but in a reduced format. Russian territory began to be shelled by the armed forces of Ukraine after the start of the full-scale war launched by Vladimir Putin in February 2022. Prior to the beginning of the large-scale combat operations, there were no attacks from Ukraine on Russian territory, the Moscow Times emphasized. Buckle your seatbelts, folks. Automatic ejection system on the Russian Bukhanka. The United Kingdom may abandon plans to send thousands of troops to protect Ukraine, as such actions are considered too risky. This is reported by The Times. It is noted that a change in the format of military support may force Moscow to reconsider its red lines in order to reach a peace agreement. Instead, British and French military instructors should be sent to western Ukraine. This will be in line with the commitment to military presence in the country, but the instructors will not be near the front, will not guard strategic facilities, and will not directly protect Ukrainian troops. The planes are supposed to provide air cover for Western troops on the ground. Turkey, in turn, will play a key role in the naval component of the operation, which is currently in the planning stages. Weapon supplies from the UK and European countries will continue to be delivered to Ukraine to ensure that it maintains a strong position in case Russia violates the terms of a possible peace agreement. Although no final decisions have been made yet, the British Ministry of Defense emphasizes that the country does not completely abandon the idea of sending troops to Ukraine in one form or another. One of the diplomatic sources involved in the discussions within the Coalition of the Willing reported plans to involve tens of thousands of ground troops. The risks are too high, and the available forces are insufficient for such a task. However, there are fears in Ukraine that foreign training contingents could be withdrawn at the first sign of danger, just as happened with the British military on the eve of the full-scale invasion. A diplomatic source told The Times, "We will change our position, but we want Moscow to break its red lines. We showed them the finish line." U.S. Secretary of State Rubio urges Ukraine to accept peace talks with Russia. But after a brutal night strike on Kyiv, many ask, peace at what cost? Both sides must agree, but only one keeps bombing.
What would you say?
Well, first of all, what was put before our partners was options to discuss about things that it would take to end a war. This war is endable. Both sides just have to agree to it. We've shown them a pathway forward. We've discussed those ideas. It was a good meeting yesterday. There'll be good meetings over the weekend. We've shown them the finish line. We need both of them to say yes. But what happened last night with those missile strikes should remind everybody of why this war needs to end. It's horrible those missiles landed. What's even worse is there are today people that were alive yesterday that are not alive today because this war continues, and the president wants to stop it. And everyone should be thanking the president for being a peacemaker and trying to save lives. That's what we're trying to do here. It's not our war. We didn't start it, as you know. But we're trying to end the dying. We're trying to end the destruction. And We've shown the path forward. We can see the finish line, but both of them have to get there. We're going to do everything we can to help them get there, but they have to ultimately say yes. Both
And
of
we
them.
are using a lot of pressure on both. You know, if you think we're just in there because we're nice people, and we are nice people, but we're using a lot of pressure on both.
Zelensky, Russia is the aggressor, not Ukraine. We want the U.S. not to search for balance in this words.
We would like really to have this common understanding that Russia is the aggressor, not we, and we really want the United States not to search for the balance in these words. I understand what President Trump is willing to have. I highly respect the fact that he's searching for an approach. That's his approach. Somebody might have different approach, but you shouldn't be saying that Ukraine and Russia started this war. I believe that it's painful for our people to hear, and this is why we respond in this way. We're talking about the dignity of our country.
Zelensky says missile strikes are Russia's way of pressuring the U.S. He noted that Moscow had hoped for a scandal during Ukraine's meeting with the American side in London, but it didn't happen. We are much stronger today than at the start of the war, he said, adding that the main focus in London was how to stop the war.
Volodymyr Zelensky. She stands, defends her rights, and puts pressure on our people, and also on America. What else do I associate today's strike with, or primarily? Yesterday in London, there was a meeting, and indeed, European countries and the United States of America, Ukraine, Britain, France, Germany, the United States of America were present. Yesterday, there was a conversation. It ended, in any case, it was not easy but constructive. It ended not with disagreements, but still with the desire to continue working. I am confident that Russia was counting on a big scandal yesterday, and even some emotions were voiced in the media space, but these are still just emotions. Russia does not like the alliance around Ukraine because Ukraine, if it stands alone, is an easier target for Russia. However, to be honest with you, over these 3 years of this war, we are strong enough. And even in the early days of the war, when we were almost alone, almost we managed to withstand. Believe me, now we are much stronger, but still we want the end of the war more than anyone. And that is our desire. And today we started the meeting with President Ramaphosa, not by talking about the economy, although that's important, but about how to end the war, about how to enforce a complete unconditional ceasefire.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.